being in law enforcement and being in a uniform and judged every day.
There are shootings and murders and robberies, and children are being harmed. That seeps into your spirit. You don't walk away from a homicide. You don't walk away from seeing somebody's life being taken. That stays in your reel in your mind. How do you take care of yourself when those things happen? Self-care, meditating, and getting in a council and talking about and debriefing and sharing. It helped me slow down and calm down.
It's called the Power Training Program, and that stands for Peace Officer Wellness, Empathy, and Resilience Training.
Is this like any other trainings that you guys get?
No.
Completely outside of the box than what we do traditionally as officers.
To have a program that said, okay, we're going to take pause and we're going to focus on your health, your stress levels, your family, and how to deal with these things, I thought it was perfect timing.
It changed my perspective on the way I see my life, the way I see my job, the way I see, the relationship with my partner, the relationship I see with the other officers, the people in the community.
It's teaching people, officers, how to show up to something so that their mind is in the right place to provide some sort of solution or to just listen.
I'm a 100% supporter of this, and I think that we would be a better department if everybody took his.
The program is about building awareness and creating resources. Our physical awareness, our emotional, our mental, and our social or spiritual awareness. Some of them were quick to engage. Many found it challenging at first to do a training that is so out of the box, so not in their comfort zone. But it's been incredible to hear these stories and understand how deeply this work has really been enhancing their ability to show up to their work and to their life.
Are you noticing anything different in your physical health over the last 6 months?
I have suffered from hypertension a little bit, and just utilizing the meditation, it helps me a lot with that. I find myself not getting the headaches as much as I used to, along with changing my eating habits with a lifestyle change, but they help me out as well.
Breathing techniques helped, the meditation, which has helped me tremendously, with not only my family, but my colleagues.
I just wake up, I'm not groggy. You know what I mean? I just wake up and it's kind of like, all right, it's a new day.
I definitely noticed a change. I would literally get 3-4 hours of sleep, and I have 2 little ones, single mom as well, 11 and 3. And I know I would wake up and toss and turn. But once I started the breathing techniques, that's helped out a lot.
For me, I wasn't getting any sleep because my mind is constantly just racing, thinking of 1,000 things. I don't do that anymore.
I'll get 6-7 hours now, which to me that's really good because I wouldn't do that before. But I feel more relaxed, more at ease, more calm. I don't wake up like how I used to before.
I would bet if you all go into the doctor, your blood pressures are lower than they were a year ago.
Oh man, that's insane.
Oh yeah. Okay,
yeah.
So I just had a physical, right? I just had a physical. First thing you do, they take your blood pressure. It has never been this low, ever. Wow. Yeah, it was really low. It was great. It was perfect. And I was like, wow. I couldn't believe how low it was. DKG was great. The heart was great. Everything was good. Everything was good. So I'm like, okay, there's some physical changes here.
I had COVID back in July, early July, so it was times to where it got so bad where the shortness of breath was really, really severe, and it's I couldn't breathe, and I started to panic a little bit. I remember the meditation practice, and that helped me get through it. It's just been a great help, just overall.
The breathing exercises that we did, it helped me. I do that, and before I didn't do stuff like that. I didn't believe in stuff like that. I didn't really, honestly, I didn't. But when we did it in the classroom and I saw how it helped me personally, I was like, oh crap, there is something to this. So I started implementing it at home and it works.
I honestly can see less stress with him.
For me, definitely the 4-7-8 breathing. I've kind of adopted that as my routine now. When I get to work, 2 to 3 times. That's the last thing I do before I get out the car. If I know it's gonna be a tough week, or if it's a tough day, or yesterday was kind of bad and I just don't want to do it, I do that about 2 or 3 times, and it really does kind of put you in this kind of relaxful state. makes it easier just to be like, all right, you know, it is what it is. Let's go take it on. I use that. I've told my wife about it to help her sleep at night, and it does work. It does work.
And it's crazy because we're breathing all the time.
You
Like
don't
to
even
say
think
that you
about it.
do something different in your breathing rather
Yeah.
than just breathe
It's
in and out.
peaceful.
I've been listening to everything that you guys have been saying in all of our sessions, to be present, not to be rushing, to take things one day at a time, listen to your body. So I've been doing a lot of that, which I wasn't doing before, and I feel relaxed. I notice a difference.
I started, taking in all these ideas about mindfulness and meditation, and so then what I started doing was spending my, about 20 minutes in the morning in my dining room with all the lights off, something I do every day. And that was a huge help. And along with all that came the idea that you need to start walking again. You need to start running again. And so I felt like, well, I could meditate while I walk. This is all coming from Center for Counsel stuff. And so I'd go for a walk, and I'd walk half a mile because I was out of shape at this point. And then I said, well, I'll go for a little jog. And I would still meditate. I would still focus my attention on what was coming up in my future or what I anticipated coming up. And next thing you know, I'm running 8 miles, 9 miles, 10 miles, 12 miles. And it all started with that initial meditation practice.
I think for me, it was the meditation and breathing, which kind of forces you to be present. It really does slow things down. So even as police officers, things that can kind of move fast, something about the mindset of being present, for whatever reason, slowed the game down, which allows me to think quicker and apply something that like a solution or result. That's everything.
Staying present in that moment, not having to worry about the future and the what ifs and, what could go wrong. So it's definitely helped.
Mentally, I just feel more at peace. It goes back to being present, but I'm just like grateful. I have this like overwhelming appreciation. It shuts my brain on worrying and stressing about like a lot of things. It really just shut that down.
I started realizing, 27 years, I've dealt with trauma, I've dealt with stress, but I don't even know it. I know I had to have. That's why I'm like, okay, let me get my heart checked, let me get everything checked. And I've never dealt with, the trauma or the stress that I've been through in my 27 years. Because as police officers, we're tough guys, tough girls, we see things, we see so much, and we just push on through instead of dealing with that trauma, instead of dealing with that stress that we're very unaware of. So now I'm very aware of it, and I want to talk about these things. I was not a believer in therapy. I always associated therapy with something's wrong with my brain. So when we started doing this training, it's like, okay, it's kind of equivalent to therapy because we're all like talking in a circle, we're all sharing each other's personal stories. So now I'm a believer in it.
Being a supervisor, I got to know my officers a little bit better, and I understood as to why they do things. This really encouraged me to listen more and understand them more. It just created a unity within the group. It just became stronger. It was a true team, and that's what I'm taking from this training.
Around the time of the training, that's when the civil unrest had started off, and then the George Floyd situation. So we got to kind of express some of the things and hear other people's point of view of how they feel and what they were feeling, how much stress it was, how we feel like, okay, you can't do anything. It's like we're always watched. You just don't know what to do. We feel like, okay, we can't really do our job anymore because of what's going on.
I needed it. I needed that circle. I was going through it tough, man. That was the worst year for me being on the job. I love the officers, and I love my culture, and they were at odds. And I felt like I was in the middle. You take it home, and there's only so much you can put on your wife because you don't want her to have to deal with that stuff. Your friends don't get it. Your parents don't really get it. That circle gave me a chance to open that bottle up and let some of that stuff out, and people were just listening, no judgment, taking it all in, and it gave me hope to have that open forum where I can just say what I want and get it off my chest because I've been keeping it in also.
What surprised you over time?
I saw some of the toughest cops I know, in tears by halfway through the day, and I was one of them. And you don't expect that. You expect everyone to be kind of standoffish. We're cops. We don't really want to put all our business out there like that. But man, as the day went on,
Man, what a relief! I've never felt like this.
We've been partners for a long time, so we could open up and talk to each other about stuff. But I'm not as stressed out at work as much. I don't snap as much anymore. And I think he's noticed a change in me too. After a critical incident that we were involved in during the riots, I changed. I did. I was a lot more moody. I was grumpier and didn't really care. I think I've slowly started to change back to how I was before, and a lot has to do with this program. Sometimes we care too much, and that also takes a negative toll on you. But we take it on, and it does affect you. It does affect you at home. It affects you at work. At what point do I just draw the line and say, hey, dude, I'm in too deep. Like, I need to pull myself back.
sometimes if it's hurting you, you got to stop. You got to pull back, take some time, breathe a little bit, and say, all right, at what cost, and that's what this training really opened my eyes to do.
I didn't realize that carrying so much can be a negative. I didn't know that until you put it in perspective the last class we had. For me, I think that was the biggest whoa. That hit me hard. That really did.
We do take on too much and too many people's problems, and you don't have a shut-off valve.
I pretty much only opened up to him in the car, but outside the car, no one knows our battles that we go through. It was hard for me at first to try to open up because even though they were coworkers, they were still strangers to me. But after a while, I felt comfortable, and I'm hearing people tell their stories. Like, okay, well, shoot, if they're brave enough to open up, then okay, I guess I'll open up too.
I found that my colleagues are dealing with the same things that I am, and some of them probably even worse. Because a lot of times, like we say, we don't really express our feelings.
Sitting in the circle and hearing, fellow officers, listening to them, and and be like, hey, I'm not alone.
We have our significant others, but it's like we have our friends outside of the job, but they don't really get it. It's nobody really talked to about what we go through and what we deal with on a daily basis. But it was just good to know that, okay, I'm not the only one, and we can talk through it and figure it out and just get through it together.
I think with the training, it gave us the opportunity to have enough courage to be more vulnerable with each other. And I think the vulnerability component really brought us close together.
I think you could see it in people's bodies, you could see it in the humor in the room, and you could see it in the vulnerability of the officers telling their stories.
Even as a young man, I think I knew I was going to be a police officer. My dad was an officer. Several of my uncles and cousins. At one point, I had 13 or 14 different family members on the same police department in Massachusetts. People call the police when they've lost control. So now you're the person that has to fix everyone's lost controlled situations, if you will. Let's be frank, I think this uniform represents oppression to some people in this community. With this kind of practice, I see the value in it. I know it has made amazing difference in many people's lives.
What were your expectations coming into this training?
I was thinking, how is this going to map onto what we do?
I thought it was just going to be lecture. I didn't think we were going to get into the whole, talking and expressing and, giving someone their turn to speak.
When I walk in and I see stuff like that, I'm like, oh man, what did I get myself into?
Coming to your class, everyone's like, oh, this is soft. But you have data behind it. You said, okay, you guys want to live the life you're living? Look at the suicide rate. Look at the heart attack rates.
I remember in the beginning, nobody will want to be first. Nobody wants to be first to grab this little thing and speak how they're feeling or who they're going to dedicate it to. That's the first step. Once that first step happens, the rest is easy.
I was shocked at how much the officers were able to really express themselves, because generally we kind of keep everything in. We don't really show our feelings too much because, I mean, when we work, like, you can't really do that. I mean, it could be the difference between life or death. It was good to see everybody just kind of open up and start to see that we're all kind of going through the same thing and we all like are carrying this baggage.
This is what this training does. It tells you about yourself, stuff that you didn't even know was bothering you, stuff that I'm not gonna even speak about. But you feel the need, the urge to need to get it off your chest, and it helps you. And then that blessing for you is gonna bless so many other people that witnesses that and sees that, and they feel what you feel, and they can like, man, I was going through something similar kind of, and then it's just a snowball effect.
What helped me going through this training was that it defined the way I was feeling. I knew I felt a certain way, but I couldn't express it, or I didn't know the definition of it. Why do I feel like this? Or is it okay to feel like this? I would take things home, take it home to the point where I would get sick or just overwhelmed. At the long run, I realized I was hurting myself. So going through the training in the 6 months we did, I realized that I was happier. I wasn't as stressful, as my day-to-day routine, and I was able to take care of my officers a lot better.
Since we've been through the training, since we started, the unit got closer. I think it started when we first started training and we were sitting in that circle, and then each one of us started sharing stories, personal stories that I've never heard from some of these guys. I think that was a door that was open for our unit to start sharing more with each other.
This has just helped me out tremendously as far as narrowing stuff down to what makes me tick, what makes me do what I do. Why don't I like that? How do I really feel about that? I know what I'm saying, but how do I really feel about it? And then it helps you kind of get that stuff out and really speak about it and put it all on the table.
I always thought I had something wrong with me, physically, medically, I should say, to the point I would go to the doctor and I'll get checkups and I'm like, man, I don't feel right. Pains in my stomach, for example, not being able to sleep, feeling lethargic the next day, or just tired, not having the appetite I used to. And I'll be honest, find myself like self-medicating, meaning, oh, maybe I got a drink here, But it was all because of the stress. And once that stress, little by little, it was controllable.
It sounds like your relationship to stressful things is what shifted. Not
Absolutely.
that stress went away.
No, the stress will always be there, especially in our job. The stress will always be there. I used to take it in. I used to be that person that if you want something done, do it yourself. I used to do it all. And now I take a break.
I only have 17 years, right? But in those 17 years, I've seen so much chaos. Gosh. We do suffer from PTSD from the stuff that we see and do out there in the job. And I'm not ashamed to admit it that, yeah, I do have that stuff, and I've suffered from it, because if you've been on the job this long and you tell people you don't have it, then you're just lying. This helped me get back into how I was before. This changed my perspective on just life in general. It really did.
You're doing it so you can continue to do what you do at the rate that you do it, at the level that you do it, without it destroying yourself. Yes, I have the ability, I have the means to affect some type of change, but not if it's detrimental to myself.
To accept that I was angry, take it in, know that I was angry or upset, and then to say, it's okay. That's the mentality I took.
The one thing I took from is that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be fine. It's okay to not have it together.
The neighborhood I grew up in, either people are dead or they're in prison for life. Being 30 years on the job, a woman of color coming from a space where people who wear the uniform like me don't understand me. I'm a product of this community, so that's why I relate. So it's amazing, because when you shared your story, it's like all of us got the same story. The reality is we're so much alike.
I wonder what an impact a training like this has on how you listen to the community.
We have these good conversations, and then you want to put it to work when you get out there and you start talking to people, and it reminds you of a situation that was brought up in the actual circle, and you bring it back out there, and you're like, okay, well, let me see. Don't let me just jump to it. Let me see what they're about. And Usually, you find out you got a little bit more in common than you did before, and makes it a little easier to do your job that way also.
When I'm getting information that I might not necessarily like or agree with, just be there kind of in the moment, not just be quick to react, just practicing the breathing methods and then thinking before I actually speak, before, I take the next step.
I think taking this program or this class kind of made me realize, like, yeah, I have to slow down, listen to their side, and it took me a while to get to that point.
I think it's helped me personally in the sense where I'm doing more listening and more of focusing on what's going on now versus what if and the future stuff.
This program helped us all slow down and say, okay, let's try to understand why they have this opinion. And when you take a bigger picture look, it's pretty easy to see.
Prior to this, with the critical incident, my attitude was different, right? I wanted to quit, wanted to leave, just like the hell with this. This kind of slowly brought me back into how I was before. Like, I signed up for a job to protect and serve. Now I do want to protect and serve now. This kind of changed my perspective on things now, it really did. I was fucked up after the critical incident. Now I'm a different person, you know what I mean? And a lot has to do with the program that we took.
We hide our feelings rather well, but I think if we go to a call, for example, and it's a very dangerous call, take a step back and say, okay, what are we going to do? Don't rush into it. Really think about the process of how to handle that situation. Not only will we be safe, our families will still have us around, more importantly, but the community will be taken care of.
And count on you.
Mm-hmm. They could count on us, exactly.
So I get a phone call and the lady's angry, she wants to make a complaint. And so of course I do the basics, which are, okay, what's the complaint, what's it about? Does it meet the criteria of our policy, right? What I realized was I had a very acute awareness of how I was showing up to that phone call. And even just to say it that way, I don't think I would have ever said it that way, showing up to a phone call. There was this different level of awareness that I've had because I went through that training with Center for Counsel. So I told her that, I'm willing to listen to you, but I can tell you right now that I'm not going to be able to provide the answers to everything. I can't provide you with the closure that you're looking for, but I can listen and I can hear you out. And at the end of that conversation, she said, I realize now that my complaint is not with the police, it's more about the court system. So, she thanked me for helping her work through that. And then she said, what I appreciate the most was that you just listened and that you made me feel as though I'm not alone. I think listening to that other person who's in distress, that family who had just lost a loved one, someone whose loved one is missing and perhaps suffering from a mental illness, when they call you, the people calling you just want you to hear what they're going through. They want you to take action, but it all starts with listening.
Now it's more like, okay, well, I could see where you're coming from now, versus like, no, it's this way or it's that way. It's more like leaving it open and just coming in, with questions versus, oh no, it's this way or the highway type of thing.
How did those people react to you that you previously would have been saying this is how it is?
They've definitely seen the difference. They're like, hey, what's going on?
There was like an actual a help call. It was a scrimmage line. You can hear the radio going nuts, and me and my team would respond. But as we approach, it is chaos. It was on a big gang group that just got out of hand. They just gang unit just put it out. They recovered, I believe, 3 guns, and it was an uproar. And so it was just like this line of angry people wanting to fight the police, and we have guys, officers, just ready to do what we have to do. So I remember approaching and being present in that and kind of just slowing down. It gave me a very wide view of the whole entire situation. Listening to the people of why they were angry and what happened, and with that allowed me to have a line of communication with the crowd to get them to calm down, even talking with them to build that line of communication in the most chaos situation, but having enough awareness and presence to resolve the situation.
There was a vehicle code violation that was committed. I observed it. So we do a traffic stop. And I wasn't aware of it at the time, but I wasn't in the right place mentally when I was dealing with the driver. I had an attitude, he had an attitude, and I'm sure my attitude played a role in that. But nonetheless, he brought it, I brought it, and we were at level, DEFCON 10, right? And then something in me said, wait up. And so so I'm doing my police thing, he's doing his driver thing, and we're going back and forth, right? And we're both right, and we're both starting to accuse each other of things. I literally said, hold on, man, time out. I said, hold on, because there was a voice in my head that said, this isn't going good, this isn't gonna be good. I literally went like this, time out. I said, can we start over? And he said, what? He literally was like, what? And he's like, are you kidding me? And I said, no, I'm serious. Hold on, man. I said, we got to start over. I said, I'm not in the right place. I thought, how many more times was I just lucky that it didn't end up very bad because of the way I showed up to that traffic stop, my mentality, the way I was seeing things, what I thought my job was.
When you arrive at a homicide scene, there's a lot of stuff. There's tape, there's a body, there's witnesses, there's chaos. So when you get out of your car, don't walk over to where the other officers are to be briefed. Stay at your car, go to your trunk, get your jacket out, put on your jacket, smell the air. Is it moist? Is there humidity? Look at the lighting. Is there clouds? Is there stars, right? So it took me about 10 minutes to get over to the other officers and the sergeants, and they're probably wondering, what is this guy doing? Like, what is he waiting on? By the time I got there, I just had a sense of everything. Everything was open to me. I seen a lot more, and I was able to function so much better instead of just rushing into a situation or just going into a situation.
When you have like the zoom out approach, it slows everything down. You can see the whole entire picture a whole lot quicker. The decision making becomes just as fast as far as like resolving, even in the most chaotic form. I had the awareness in the sense of the whole entire view versus such a tunnel view. It's going in open.
I think it's too late to intervene when you're at the point of the incident. I think the qualities that we want to support, the resources we want to provide, have to start a lot earlier with the way the officer understands how to protect and enhance his or her health, physical health, mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And I think in cultivating those resources individually, we begin to see the impact on relationships around us, relationships at home, relationships with partners and in the unit. And when that is something that can be supported, that is what one brings to community. And in that, we see the downstream impact of starting early with trainings like this.
When you're not aware of where you're at mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and you are in the mix dealing with a group or an individual, we have seen several instances in the past 2, 3, 4 years of where it does end very badly. And at the end of it, there's no winners or losers. It's just everyone involved would want to start over.
LAPD is very concerned with, obviously keeping officers safe, serving the community, lowering crime, improving quality of life. But also LAPD is very concerned with risk management of the city, lawsuits, all those other things. What this training, I believe, will do is significantly lower that because of the mind frame of the officer going into a situation, slowing everything down, looking at it for what it is, and taking it step by step, breathing before that.
There's exercises, there's very practical things to do that will make it a habit to be aware of when you're in the moment like that. Maybe you do it in a different way, but you essentially are aware enough to say, hey, can we start over? Sometimes you're just in situations where you can't do that, but there's enough of them that it's a worthwhile effort to do it when you can.
I think officers coming in, patrol gangs, command staff, once they go to the training, I think that we'll see a major impact.
It's really exciting to hear the feedback from officers who've gone through 6 months of this program.
I learned so much from you guys that it has helped me with my family life, with my kids at home, and just listening, being in the present moment, communicating with them, because we've all had assignments whether it's working in gangs or homicide, where we're really involved with what's going on at work. So it's about my wife, my kids now being able to share their stories that they've never told me about, and me sharing stories that I've never told them about, and it has brought us closer.
Everyone's relationships got stronger. It's something that so strong enough that I took it home and wanted to express it and share it with my kids, and do our little mini version of it. I really don't want this to be the last time that I experience this. I want this to keep going the rest of my career. I would like to have this training pop up periodically.
I'm creating a book to do with my family on each exercises, even the one about just listening to every sound or feeling your hand, all the little exercises that are in there, and then also the circle to talk about some of the things that are in those exercises to do with my girls and my wife. I'm using everything that you guys are doing seriously, like with my work, with my home, you name it.
If you carve out some time to do these things that we learned, stuff just starts showing up, whether it's lower blood pressure or, you find yourself
being able to run 13 miles.
Right.
That's not nothing.
Physically, improving, that stuff just shows up. So yeah, definitely some tangible benefits, and I think it's just going to get better and better.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely.
Having a sense of efficacy, having a sense of control over yourself.
Definitely, it's almost like a superpower.
I got to say that now that I feel like I have a sense of what this training can offer an individual and the impacts it could have on a group, I want my 20s back. Yeah. I do. I want my 20s back. I know individuals who don't make it through the first 5 years because of all kinds of reasons that had they implemented a lot of the things we learned in Center for Counsel, they probably would still be working as a police officer. I think this stuff could certainly help someone get through the first 5-10 years, which are usually the most vulnerable for a young man or woman, in law enforcement, because you're 22, 23, and they give you a gun and a badge, and they tell you to go save the world. And it's not until 7, 8, 9 years later that you really start to see it for what it is. And you realize that you're not Superman. When you first graduate the academy and you're like, all right, I'm gonna fix everything. And then you wake up one day and you're the one that needs to be fixed because of all the things that police officers experience.
You start off the academy, everything's amped up, They're preparing you for what to handle when you go out in the streets, right? You're like on high alert for everything, you're amped up. I think if they do have something similar to this with the recruits, it will definitely help out a lot, like not only with awareness, but with your health.
The awareness is a skill set. Can you imagine having a skill, something like this that we apply early on or you're taught that you just fall back on? Yeah, super helpful throughout anyone's career in law enforcement.
If I can't take care of myself, then I can't take care of my partner or the citizens out there.
I've lost a lot of friends to suicide, a lot of police officers, and I think if they would have had something where they could have been able to vent or talk about things or better express themselves, or knowing how to handle themselves better or how to control themselves in a different manner, I think, things could have been different.
I wake up in the morning and I'll spend 20, 30 minutes just on an open mind, but a focused mind, and things just start showing up. I have no doubt that's going to be huge in the final chapter of the last 8, 9, 10 years of my career. And so I'm thankful for that.
We all wish we had this earlier in our careers and stuff. It probably would have saved marriages and things and stuff like that. That normally the collateral damage of the job. You know what I mean?
And my hope too is that when you guys retire, you've then got another 30, 40 years of life that you enjoy your grandkids.
Yes.
Yeah. Rather than, the 3 to 5 years of life expectancy that a lot of police officers face.
What I did get from the training was that this is an ongoing thing. This is a life endeavor. I equate it to golf. You'll never have that golf game where you're just like, all right, that's it, I'm good. I don't need to golf anymore. You always want to do better. And so what I got from the training is this is not one of those one-time things where you get it and you're good and you can kind of put it on the shelf. what Center for Counsel has given me and the rest of the group who's gone through the training, I think they've given them something of a toolkit for life. And you can go to it and put into practice what you need on a daily basis. And there's all sorts of real things, tangible things that people can do. And it's something that I'll be doing the rest of my life.
Honestly, I wish it was longer. We should be doing this every 3 months. That should just be in our training for everyone. All officers should be doing this every 3 months.
I think most training with LAPD is geared to making the individual a better officer. This training was geared more to making the individual healthier and a better person. But then you flip that and say, well, if you get a better person and a healthier person, you get a better officer.
We think about the crap we've all been through, and we sit here today. At the end of the day, we're all pushing a shopping cart full of shit. And the journey of life is to unload. It's about the counsel. It's about opening up and being open and aware of new things, because you never know how the person's story is your story.
Everyone said it made them a better husband, a better father, a better partner. There was the transformation, change of folks. As you sit around this circle and you hear the history of what the council is all about and learning that, realize that you're more alike than different. So that's what's cool about it. It makes you see the similarities among each other and how uniquely wonderful we are as the human race, regardless of your background.
It is unconscionable to ask these men and women to give so much of themselves to a career that protects the public safety and to not resource them with the tools to be able to take care of themselves along the way. We need them to perform for us in community. The communities need them to be at their best. We also need them to be able to survive, to be able to flourish in this career, and also to make it to retirement and enjoy the rest of their lives beyond this career.